Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. So this book is for those of us who manage to book our sales meetings. We book our sales meetings, we go to sales meetings, but we're not closing our sales as good as we would like to do it. Or perhaps we are in a sales meeting and it doesn't go the way we want it to go, and we don't know what's happening. So Spin Selling, it's the book about running insanely good sales meetings so your sales starts advancing from one stage to the next until you close it. So this book is about asking the right questions in B2B sales meeting. So let's have a look inside. And really, the quite interesting thing about this book is that it's really simple, and the entire strategy is in this chapter 4. So even if you just spend maybe half an hour or an hour reading just chapter 4, you're pretty much gonna know what spin is and you'll be able to start implementing it. But before speaking about this chapter 4 and about spin questions and what spin stands for and how to implement it, let's just have a look at this chart so we know where we are in a sales call. So we have booked a sales call, and then Neil Rackham breaks a sales call into 4 stages. He calls them preliminaries, investigating, demonstrating capability, obtaining commitment. By the way, the book is quite old, so right now we use slightly different terminology. For example, for investigating, the terminology we're using right now is called discovery. That's the word I hear way more often. I rarely hear anyone saying investigating. Demonstrating capability, it's our demo. Obtaining commitment, it's closing sale. And so first few chapters, chapter 1, 2, and chapter 3, even before getting into chapter 4, Neil Rackham is making a point that if you lose a sale, it's not because you failed to obtain commitment. If you lose a sale, it's not because your demo is not good. If you lose a sale, it's not because you haven't spoken about the golf and puppies and build all that rapport. The sale is won or lost in the investigating stage. And I know many of you guys watching it don't want to point fingers, but maybe you can point a finger at yourself, because I see this situation over and over again, is that a salesperson, a CEO, a business owner goes into a sale thinking of demonstrating their capability. I have a client, I just couldn't get rid of his attitude like, I want to do my demo. I booked a demo. No, you didn't book a demo. You booked a sales meeting. And before doing demo, you need to go through discovery. You need to go through investigating stage. So hopefully, once you read this book, you'll realize the importance of discovery, importance of investigating stage of a sales call before you can actually proceed to demonstrating capability. Because if you didn't discover the problem, there is nothing you can solve for the client. The interaction is useless if you don't know what the problem is. There is no point of demonstrating your product or service if you're not solving a specific problem that you discovered in the investigating stage. So now let's go straight to the spin. What spin stands for, if you see here on the left, yes, you probably can see it, 4 types of questions that, according to Neil Rackham, need to be asked during a sales call in order for it to go well and result in collaboration, result in advance. He calls it advance. Not closing a sale, but advancing stage to the sale to the next level. Situation questions, problem questions, implication questions, and need-payoff questions. So if we click on this chapter 4, first Neil Rackham talks about situation questions, gives some examples of them, which is really good, so you know what to ask. Then he talks about problem questions. Then he proceeds about explaining why they work, implication questions, and finally need-payoff questions, which are somewhere there hidden. But anyway, they're here, need-payoff questions. So let me just give you a couple of examples. Let's just use this example of, let's say we are salespeople, right? And we're trying to improve our sales process. We're trying to close more sales. So first situation questions is, how do you sell your products? Well, how do you find your leads? What do you do in a sales call? What do you do? How do you follow up after a sales call? Those are all situational questions. Most salespeople are actually okay asking situational questions. It's not a big deal. We do it on a regular basis. The problems begin with next question type. And probably in your business, when you think of your sales meetings, you do ask those situation questions. Now, then come problem questions. And problem questions are a little bit more tricky to ask. Can't get rid of this thing here. Sorry. Problem questions are a little bit harder to ask because you imply that customer has a problem. We already getting into emotional landscape. Something is not working. And when we just starting out in sales, we don't have imposter syndrome. We're a bit of shy. We don't have that guts to challenge the customer and start digging in and start causing that pain and investigating that pain. We're literally poking into someone's wound with problem questions. Right, so in case of closing sales, what could be examples of problem questions? So what is not working about your sales right now, right? What challenges are you experiencing with your sales? What do you want to have better in your sales? Those things are problem questions, and it's uncomfortable to ask them. And quite often, salespeople, they just double around situation questions, then they skip straight to demo without investigating problem. And that is a problem because without investigating problem, we cannot solve anything, and there is no point of working with that customer. There is no point for that customer, for that prospect to start working with us if we're not solving the problem. So we need to discover that problem first. Now, quite an interesting thing that was outside of my awareness, despite the fact that I've been reading this thing for the second time. This is the second time I'm reading this book, and only on the second read, I finally just this thing kind of dawned on me. Implication questions. Just discovering problems is not enough. We have to figure out what that problem is costing the customer, what that problem is causing in turn, right? So, for example, if we are not closing all sales that we want, if we run sales meetings, what is it causing us? Well, we lose money, right? We lose money. We, instead of closing 10 sales out of 15, we closing 2 sales out of 15. That sucks. That's implication. Look, it sucks to lose sales. It's hurtful. What other implications? We have to book way more meetings. That's also an implication. We have to have our lead generation system running on overdrive because we cannot close all sales. What else? We have to spend time attending those meetings. All of those are implication questions. Need-payoff questions are similar to implication questions, and Neil Rackham has really nice explanation what need-payoff question is. So need-payoff question is also an implication question, but it's framed in a positive way. So instead of saying, why does your low closing ratio hurt you? How does it hurt you? You ask, what's going to happen if you fix it? So that's a payoff question. So if you were to fix this issue, what would happen? Well, if we could close 10 sales out of 15, well, lots of magic would happen, right? If we could close 10 sales out of 15, our revenue would go up. Our business will start growing. We could hire more salespeople. We could reduce the effort we put in lead generation. We'll have more money. Like, that's the whole fun of having businesses, to make money. So all those are the customer. By answering the need payoff question, what's going to happen if you're going to increase your sales call conversion? If you start closing more sales call, what's going to happen? If you start asking those questions, the customer inside of the head starts portraying this beautiful world where their problem is solved, and they are portraying it by answering the questions. They are portraying it in their head, and they build in that beautiful vision of what's going to happen when the problem is solved. This is the best place to be, a problem solved. And suddenly by answering these questions, the customer realizes the importance of working with you. They realizes what's gonna happen on their end if they pay for your solution, if they put time and energy into implementing your solution. Now, there was a little graph here that I wanted to show you. Not this one. This one is actually, so when we are running a customer meeting, customer is deciding, do they want to buy from us or they don't want to buy from us? And there is this scale, right? So on the right side of the scale here, we have cost of the solution, and it could be a financial cost, but also implementation cost. It's going to take effort to implement that solution on their end, to overhaul their processes. Obviously, they have to pay you for help. So that is the cost of the solution. In case you want to implement spin selling in your sales call structure, right? You have to start working on it, learn how to ask questions, have to role play them, have to stop doing what you've been doing so far, develop new habits. So that's all the cost of the solution. And on the left side, we have seriousness of the problem. If the problem is small, at least if it's small in customers' eyes, they'll be like, why should I go through all the trouble if the problem is small? But when we go through cycles of asking problem questions and implication questions, problem questions, implications questions, problem question, need payoff questions, we're making this side of equation, we're making this problem way more seriously. We put in bricks on this side of the scale, right? So on the right scale, we have standard thing, cost of hiring you, cost of paying for your product. On the left side of the scale, we have, products with features and benefits. Good. That's one thing. Or we can start laying bricks. Well, this product, spin selling, right? It will help you to close more sales. Oh, interesting. Well, you'll spend less time doing lead generation, less money on lead generation. Oh, that's even better. Well, guess what? You'll start closing more sales. Wow, that's more money for your business. That's another brick on this scale. So, this scale just shows what happens when you start asking problem and implication questions and need payoff questions in a sales meeting. Suddenly, customer realizes the importance of working with you. So that's the whole story of this book. There are lots of other golden nuggets. Don't want to burden you with them. If you have limited amount of time, look at this chapter 4, that's enough. If you have more time, you can read other chapters as well. Now, let me tell you a story of 3 sales meetings that I've had recently, and I've had them one just before I started rereading Spin Selling by Neil Rackham. One sales meeting went as I was reading it, and third one happened just 2 days ago. I was already preparing this presentation, so I was already really spin focused. So first sales meeting, just probably a week or so before I started reading this book. And in a sales meeting, the customer, the prospect, volunteered their problem and implication part of the equation. So as usual, I started with situational questions, and then prospect proceeded. Just happened the conversation naturally went into problem and implication questions. And describing customer problems, what's going to happen when we fix it. And because we dug into that problem, proceeding to the next stage, agreeing that we need to meet again and to take this interaction to the next level, it was so natural, it was so fluent. But look, I wasn't focused on this, it just naturally happened. So this thing happens on its own sometimes in your sales conversations. Just watch, observe, read about spin, and then think of your latest sales interaction. See, perhaps you're already implementing big parts of this spin strategy. Now, second sales call, different sales conversation. I'm already reading spin selling, and before getting on board, before starting that sales call, I just grabbed my notebook, which is sitting right here, And I just write SPIN. Okay, this is the question I'm going to ask. But guess what? That prospect, from the moment we started talking, the moment I just asked one situation questions, she wanted answers to the questions she had. So she starts asking those questions. And first I tried to, and those questions are not really related to deep-rooted problems that she had. They were like surface level. But she asked me those questions once, and I kind of give a quick answer trying to return to problem and implications. And then she asked the question a second time, and I tried to return to problem and implication. And third time she asked me a question, like I'm super eager to help, and this is the question that I'm passionate about, and I start talking about answering her question, and then she asked something else. And this entire my sales call, because of lack of my willpower, lack of my insistence, it gets derailed into answering surface level questions that prospect has. Guess what? At the end of the call, the time is running out. I'm like, I didn't ask problem, didn't ask implications, only aware of the situation in general, just having that surface level understanding of what's happening. I wanted to ask her about taking the interaction to the next level. First of all, it felt unnatural. Without discovering problems, implications, and without offering my solution to a specific problem that prospect had, asking for a sale felt wrong. But guess what? We are all salespeople. We do what we're trying to do. So I asked for a sale. I asked for advance. I asked to take this interaction to the next level. The answer was straight no. Like, she was nice and polite, but obviously for her, it wasn't obvious why we should work together. Now, as a good salesperson, I jump into objection handling, trying to investigate, navigate what's happening in her mind. And I hit a blank wall. So my lesson there is two lessons. One is stick to your guns. That's your sales meeting. That's my sales meeting. I need to stick to my guns. I need to tick off my boxes. I need to talk about the things that I decided to talk about. So that's one thing. And another thing, what I realized in that meeting, without discussing problems and implications and need payoffs, advancing a sales call is impossible, insanely difficult. That's a second sales meeting, second implication of the spin strategy. And third sales meeting that I've had just 2 days ago. Already prepared this presentation. I already knew what I wanted to talk about. So again, I'm passionate about spin. Open my notebook, SPIN, start talking about situation, try to dig into problems and get some surface level answers from the prospect, trying to dig into implications. Finally, we have some conversation going, building some rapport. I offer a solution. And only after I offered a solution, ask him, is this what you want? And he said, well, I want something else. And only then the prospect told me what exactly was the problem, right? So look, as much as we want this sales interactions to be linear, they are not linear. They go in loops and circles. So pretty much I figure out the real problem at the end of the call. Luckily, my solution was not what the prospect wanted, but it was the solution. It was very practical solution to the problem they had. So good luck, we proceeding. Good luck for me, good luck for both of us. That's the problem that they had. But I guess my lesson, the lesson I got there, is the conversations will go the way they go, and my job is to keep directing them to problems and implications and need payoff questions. But it's a sale. It takes an art to learn how to ask these questions correctly, and the conversation will keep going in loops. End of story of 3 calls. Now, so grab the book. If you think you could need some improvements with your sales closing, with running sales call, grab the book, read this chapter 4, spin strategy, read the whole book. If you want to get a little bit more serious, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. We can practice this together. We can work on this together and improve your closing rate and improve how you run your sales calls.